Hey guys, it's Sarah and today I have my 2020 makeup empties. So this is the second year in a row that I have saved up all of the makeup products that I've used up to talk about in one big makeup empties video at the end of the year. I really enjoyed doing it last year and I'm happy to be doing it again this year. It's a great way, I think, to reflect on my makeup consumption and just kind of get a nice visual for how many products I used up throughout the year, and perhaps think of some ways to maybe cut down on some of the waste in future years. So let's go ahead and take a look at everything that I used up this year. So this is everything that I finished this year, and one of the things I was really excited to be able to do with this being the second year in a row that I've done this was to compare my numbers this year to last year. So last year I used up 19 products. This year I used up 27 products. So I am going to break this down by category, and so we'll kind of go in order of a face of makeup, but I did just want to kind of give you this nice visual of everything that I finished this year all in one shot. For primers, I used up 4 primers. Now 3 out of these 4 are actually minis, and then 1 was a full size. So the first one, I think I used this up way back in January, I think. This was the First Aid Beauty Coconut Skin Smoothie Priming Moisturizer. This was just the 0.75 ounce size. I really didn't think it was anything that special compared to drugstore glowy primers, but it was good. I also used up the Supergoop Glow Screen. Now this is a sunscreen, but I did count it as a makeup product because it is very much like a glowy primer, and they do actually describe it as a makeup primer as well. So it's kind of a 2-in-1 product, but I really did enjoy this one. This was the half-ounce size that I think is worth $17. And at the end of this video, I will share the total value of the products I used up all together. This was a mini size of the Ulta Hydrating Face Primer. Nothing too special, but I did enjoy it. And this was I think my favorite one of all 4 of these, the CoverGirl Vitalist Go Glow Luminizing Lotion. Sadly, I think they discontinued this, but this was one of my favorite products of the year. Very hydrating, very glowy, very effective. I like this one even better than the First Aid Beauty one. So anyway, yeah, those were all the primers I used up, all of which were glowy. I pretty much stick to glowy primers. That's kind of just my favorite kind of primer. I only used up 1 foundation this year. This is the Balm Shelter Tinted Moisturizer. This was in my project pan for a long time. I also think they discontinued this, probably for good reason because it has a pretty bad shade range, but I did really like the product inside, and this was such a good value. 2.15 fluid ounces for a base product is really good. So, but this was a nice sheer coverage base product. And I felt like it was right in between. It wasn't too glowy, it wasn't too matte. It was just very skin-like, and I feel like a lot of people would really enjoy this formula. I kind of hope that they relaunch this with a much better shade range because I feel like it would do really well. I also only used up 1 concealer. This was the Jordana Take Cover Full Coverage Concealer in the shade Porcelain. Sadly, Jordana is going out of business at the end of 2020. Such a bummer because this is such a good concealer. It does not live up to the full coverage claim, but looking past that, it was just so beautifully creamy. It just blended into my skin so seamlessly and effortlessly, and the shade Porcelain was perfect for me. I even loved the doe foot. It was a nice kind of flexible flat doe foot. I love that style of doe foot for some reason, so I'm very sad that this will no longer be sold. Really great concealer. I used up 3 powders. One was this under eye setting powder. This was the e.l.f. HD under eye powder. I really enjoyed this, but I pretty quickly realized that I don't really feel like I need to have a separate under eye powder because I also really like the e.l.f. HD powder in Soft Luminance, which I think is very similar. And this I can use all over my face or on my under eyes, and it works great for both. And it just lasts so much longer. So I really don't have a need for like an extra separately packaged under eye setting powder, but this one was really nice. This e.l.f. HD powder in Soft Luminance is one of my favorite powders of all time. It has a nice soft glow to it, and it's just very effective. It never looks too powdery on my skin, so I love that. And I do eventually hope to repurchase this. I just don't need any new powders anytime soon. I've also kind of moved away from using powder on my face, so I foresee my powder consumption to go even farther down next year. And then I also used up the Physicians Formula Healthy Powder. I didn't care for this one too much. I felt like it just would look too powdery on my skin. It's funny because I do love the Healthy foundation, but the Healthy powder was just not my favorite. but I'm glad to be finished with that as well. This one took me a long time to pan this year. Then I have setting spray. I used up 2 setting sprays this year. The Pixie Glow Mist, this is an all-time favorite of mine. Very glowy. It can be a little bit oily. What I love so much about this that I feel like really sets it apart is when I have finished my makeup and I feel like my face makeup is looking either too dry or heavy, or if it's weirdly separated around my pore areas, spraying some of this on fixes it. Like, it actually makes my makeup look better after the fact. So yeah, I would almost consider it like a finishing spray or a fixing spray, and it's just fantastic if you like something very glowy. And then this is the NYX Dewy Finish Setting Spray. I didn't like this one as much. This actually has the Pixie Rose Glow Mist in it now. This was not my favorite. I feel like you might like this if you like a hydrated finish but you have oily skin, because this does feel a little bit drying in a way. It does kind of feel tight. It is more of a true setting spray rather than like a finishing spray. Not my favorite because I just prefer something a little more hydrating that just kind of melts my makeup together, not necessarily so much a setting spray. But I do think that a lot of people would enjoy this. It's just not really my preference. Moving on to eye products. So I did finish finally this Ulta Matte Eye Primer. I didn't love this. I reviewed this in my last regular empties video. I had this for such a long time, so it really is a great value for your money. Most eye primers in a squeeze tube like this last forever. I didn't feel like it was that effective at keeping my eyeshadow lasting all day. I would still get some creasing and fading at the end of a long day, so I was not in love with this, and I'm very glad to finally be finished with it. I don't plan to cut it open just because I don't even like the product enough to really dig out the rest of it, but I feel like I definitely got my money's worth out of that. One of my most successful categories this year was eyeshadow. I really put a lot of focus into some of these like single eyeshadows that I wanted to use up. I used up 4 Stila liquid eyeshadows, 3 of their Glitter and Glows. This is a trio of minis that I bought a couple of holiday seasons ago, and then also a mini of their Shimmer and Glow in Kitten. All 3 of these were like on the verge of drying out this year, and I just really put a lot of energy into panning those, so I'm really, really happy to have had those done this year. And also the e.l.f. Long Lasting Lustrous Eyeshadow in Soiree. This one you heard about a lot in my project pan this year. This was in my project pan for almost the entire year, I think up until October or November when I finally finished it, but this is one of my favorite eyeshadow formulas ever. It's a very like cushiony cream to powder kind of metallic formula, and I'm so sad that they've discontinued this. I will definitely miss this one, but that one took forever to pan. It feels like a huge accomplishment. The Stila Glitter and Glows I happily used up, and I enjoyed them while I had them, but I do feel like these are kind of overhyped. I don't feel like there's anything that special about them. The Shimmer and Glow is like a softer shimmer, whereas the glitter is like a chunky kind of glitter. Again, I enjoyed it, but I think I've learned that this kind of like liquid eyeshadow I really don't reach for much, and they dry out so quickly that it's really not the kind of product that I want to have like a lot of in my collection. Maybe like 1 or 2 at a time, but I really don't need to have like this many because I learned my lesson when they all started drying out at the same time. So yeah, but I'm so happy to have this done. And I know it looks like there is still some in there, and there is a little bit, but it's completely dried up. You might be able to see that it's like all down there at the bottom, and I did remove the stopper from all of these, and I really did get a ton of uses out of them, and it's really just a small amount that's down there at the bottom. So for eyebrows, I am actually very proud that I only used up 1 eyebrow product this year, the e.l.f. Wow Brow Gel in Taupe. I love this brow gel. It's a fiber gel, has a nice small brush, a nice lightly tinted brow gel. It's not too messy or anything, and this will probably be a continual like repurchase for me. And the reason why I say I'm so proud to have only used up 1 eyebrow product this year is because if you remember last year, I think I had used up 6 eyebrow pencils over the course of last year, and it was kind of like one of my like small New Year's resolutions to reduce my eyebrow product waste, because it was very eye-opening to me to see just how many of those pencils I could go through in a year. And so I did switch over to the ABH pomade this year, and that one is probably going to last me at least 2 years. And it's much less packaging waste than I was creating with the pencils. So I'm really happy to only have this 1 brow gel in my empties this year. All right, so here is one area where I would like to somehow reduce my consumption next year. Mascaras. I do love testing out mascaras, but this feels like a lot to me. So first I do have a lash primer. This is one thing that I can easily cut out because this was the first and probably last lash primer I'll ever try. I've just kind of learned that I don't like going to that extra step anyway, and this one didn't really do anything. This was a pretty big disappointment to me. I felt like it did nothing for my lashes, so I pretty much just used it up to use it up because I'd bought it and I didn't want it to go to waste. But this was the CoverGirl Lash Blast Amplify Primer. I feel like even if I were to find a primer that makes a big difference, it wouldn't matter because the mascaras that I like on their own, and I don't feel like I need something to add anything to them. So this is one thing I can easily cut out of my routine and hopefully not have anything like this in my empties next year. And then I also used up 5 mascaras this year. So I used to follow the 3-month rule with mascara, and I would replace my mascara every 3 months religiously. Now I have kind of loosened that a bit. Now I go by every 6 months, which is actually usually what they list on the packaging as like the shelf life. Now my rule of thumb is every 6 months or once it's dried up or run out, whichever comes first. Usually it'll start to dry out around like the 4 to 5 month mark, but if I can stretch it out 6 months, then I will. So anyway, somehow I still went through 5 of these this year. There were quite a few times this year that I had more than one mascara open at a time, and I would like to try my best to only have one mascara open at a time in 2020, maybe 2 if I have to, but I really would like to try to have fewer mascara empties next year, so let's see if I can stick to that. But first we have the CoverGirl Lash Blast Volume. I really did enjoy this one. I just wasn't a huge fan of the brush. I felt like I prefer something maybe with slightly longer bristles. This one has very kind of short, spiky bristles, but I enjoyed the formula. It was very lengthening and it made my lashes look great. The Flower Lash Warrior is one of my favorite mascaras ever. This was the second one of these that I have gone through in my lifetime. Pretty big brush, and it's kind of curved and it has varying lengths of bristles. Really enjoyed that as well. But this is also the year that I discovered the e.l.f. Keep Your Curl, which ended up being one of my all-time favorite mascaras. It's half the price of the Flower one, and it pretty much does the same thing, but I actually like the brush a little bit better because it's smaller. Similar to the Flower one, but just like a smaller version of that to me. So it's a little easier to use than the Flower one, it's cheaper, and it does great things for my lashes, so really enjoyed that one this year. This is the Urban Decay Lash Freak Mascara. This also ended up being one of my favorites. These were actually the two, the e.l.f. Keep Your Curl and the Lash Freak. These were the two that were in my 2020 makeup favorites video as like my top favorites this year. This is an intense one, but I really enjoyed this, and I would also repurchase this. Even though it is high-end, I'd probably would buy the mini just because I would like to see how long the mini will last compared to this one. I was able to get about 4 months of use out of this one. This one I didn't love the CoverGirl Clump Crusher extensions. It just didn't really do much for my lashes, so I ended up mainly just using this on my lower lashes, and it worked great for that. Another category that I put a lot of focus this year was lip products. So I used up 5 lip products. So proud to say that. Last year, I think I only used up 1 lip liner. I don't think I used up any lipsticks. So the fact that I used up this many lip products is pretty incredible because I used to like never pan lipstick. So first I have this e.l.f. lip liner, and it also has like a lip brush on the other end in the shade Dusty Rose. I also think they discontinued this. I don't know why they keep discontinuing perfectly good products, but see, yeah, there's a little swatch of it there. Great color. I enjoyed this a lot. I felt like I went through it really fast. This was not in my project pan. This I just went through naturally, and I didn't feel like it lasted very long, so there must not have been a ton of product in here, but I did really enjoy that color. This was, I think, one of the first ones that I used up this year, the Bite Lip Crayon in Glacé. This was the like Sephora birthday gift a couple years ago, and I felt like this went pretty fast because it was pretty creamy and soft. I learned that I didn't really like this kind of color on my lips. You can't really see it. It actually looks really similar to the Dusty Rose. I don't like this kind of color all over my lips. I think I just prefer like lighter pinks than this. This was just a little too deep for me. But I used it a lot as a cream blush, and it was a fine like fall lip color. So yeah, very proud to have finished that. I also finished this NYX Butter Gloss in Creme Brulee. This was great. It took forever to use up. This comes with a lot of product. Great nude gloss. I haven't repurchased it yet just because I don't really feel like this gloss formula stands out to me that much. Among all my other glosses that I have, I feel pretty much the same about most glosses, but I did really enjoy it, and this was a nice nude color. And it also felt very like nourishing on my lips too. This is a mini of the Tarte Tartist Glossy Lip Paint. This I really enjoyed. It's a nice like rosy pink color. This I used both on my lips and as a cream blush, and actually went pretty fast that way. And I finished a full-size bullet lipstick. This is the Red Apple lipstick in Beachside. I really like this lip formula. I didn't end up digging it out of there just because I just don't really feel like it. I feel like I got plenty of use out of it already. This was a nice kind of glossy tan kind of lipstick, and yeah, I really enjoy this formula. If you like almost like a lip gloss looking lipstick, you would really enjoy this formula. I'm just so proud. So that is everything that I used up in 2020, and it's interesting. Last year I used up hardly any eyeshadows and lipsticks, whereas this year those were two of the really challenging categories that I put a lot of focus into. But if you noticed, this year I didn't use up any cheek products, no blushes, bronzers, or highlighters. But last year, I remember I did use up a blush and a highlight and contour duo, which those were like my big accomplishments last year. But I did want to go ahead and share the total value of all the products that I used up this year. So I used up $328.50 worth of makeup this year. And that is looking at the retail value. So I'm not sure, some of these things I'm sure I got on sale, but just based on the value of the products, that is the value of product I used up this year. Versus last year, I used up $206.57. So I did use up 8 more products this year than I did last year, but I used up about $122 more worth of product this year than last year. So interesting. It's kind of eye-opening to see all of this packaging here. I am planning on recycling as much of this as I can, most likely through TerraCycle. They do have a mail-in program with Garnier that I tried to sign up for, but I got put on the wait list because they say it's full right now. So what I will probably end up doing is next time I'm near a L'Occitane store, they have a drop-off with TerraCycle. So that's probably what I'll end up doing instead, because I don't think I can mail them in. But there is also a Center for Hard to Recycle Materials in my town that I'm going to call and ask. On their website, they don't mention anything about cosmetics. So I am going to ask, and if I can take things there, then I'll just do that. But if not, I'll probably save these up for the next time I'm near a L'Occitane store. I don't know when that'll be. But also the mascara wands, which I do have quite a few of that I've collected here, will go off to probably Wands of Wildlife if they're still accepting them. I think they only accept them like maybe February and October, or there's like specific months that they accept them. So I'll probably do that as well. But yeah, definitely gonna try my best to get all of this recycled rather than just thrown away. And while recycling is great, but it's definitely not like the answer. I think the answer is consuming less and maybe opting for more sustainable packaging whenever possible. Okay, so this was mainly for my own curiosity, but I thought I would share it as well. I split things up by things that I used up from my project pan versus things that I used up naturally, like just without them putting them in a project pan. So if anything, I think it kind of just shows which kinds of products I'm more or less likely to put in a project pan. For example, I never put mascaras in a project pan because I just go through those naturally. But like a lip liner, a concealer, a primer, and a powder, these are things that were definitely more challenging to use up that I did just kind of use up on my own. And then over here, these are the things that I did have in a project pan. So eyeshadows, I almost never use up unless they're in a project. Same with lip products, honestly. Foundations, primers, powders, setting sprays, I could probably go either way, but I definitely used up this many of those kinds of face products this year because of my project pan. I probably wouldn't have gone through this many if I had not put them in a project. So anyway, I just thought that was kind of an interesting visual to show. I'm kind of both proud and not proud to have used up more this year than I did last year. I feel like in some ways, I wish I wasn't creating more waste, but at the same time, this does mean that I'm getting use out of my products. Many of these were things that I had in my collection for a long time that I focused on using, and I feel like it's always better to use up products than to let them just sit and expire or go to waste. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I would love to see you again very soon, and hopefully I'll talk to you tomorrow in my next video. Bye.